So,
Perfect.
all right, Scott, I will let you, kind of take it over and start off anytime you think we're ready.
Yeah, we may have some people joining us a little bit later, but in this format, that should be pretty easy to accommodate. Myself and Katie will be administering the conversation today, and the goal is to answer all your questions about downsizing and inform you a little bit about the process. So before Katie and I get started, I would like to introduce Amy Fabro. She's from Caring Transitions. She has partnered with us on this and has been a sponsor. So at the end, we're going to be doing a drawing for that gift certificate to the Good Table. So hopefully you'll all stay on for that. And thank you for doing that. And Amy's just going to take a couple minutes to talk a little bit about what she does and her company does. So take it away.
Hey guys, do I get to win that gift certificate?
You are exempt.
I'm exempt. No. Hi guys, I'm Amy Fabro. I am the owner of Caring Transitions of Greater Portland. I have actually had the privilege to work with a couple of the Townsend team clients and helping them with their downsizing. So I'm excited to be here. Thanks for me, Katie and Scott and Kevin. So basically I can help with your downsizing process, or what we like to say, rightsizing. So I will help with, I can conduct online estate sales. I can do in-home estate sales. Right now, that's really not something that we're doing because of COVID. So the online auction estate sale process has been very successful in helping with any items you might not be able to take with you to your space. So I actually would be happy to meet with anybody starting this process. I come for a free in-home estimate, and if I'm not the person that can help you, just like in the packets that you guys received, there's a list of services, referral partners that is in there. I have a bunch of referral partners that can point you in the right direction to somebody that can help you. So it's never a waste of time to meet with me. Always happy to chat with you and help you through that process, because it can be kind of overwhelming. So
it can be, and we're going to get into that. Thank you very much, Amy. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
So first off, how we like to start it. Of course, we've all got our names propped up here. I was just wondering if we could go around, and what I might do is I might call you out just as you appear on my screen. And if you could just take a moment to introduce yourself. And Sheila Johnson, we'll start with you in just a second, so we can prep you here. And just tell us where you're from, your current living situation, and what you're thinking about for rightsizing. And first I want to just kind of start by, well, actually I'll get into that in a bit, but and anything that you're looking to get out of today, so that we can make sure that we address your questions.
Okay, hello everyone. We have our names in for a retirement community, and we've been called once, but we weren't, it was the beginning of COVID, and we didn't feel comfortable, obviously, going into a congregate living facility. So we put, we turned that down. However, our name is still on the list, but we're nowhere near ready to move because everything, I've been a hoarder. And so I have a lot of things. You open a closet and you have to shut the door hard. So anyway, I really need help in getting organized to move and disposing of things. There's some things that may be valuable and some things that may be just junk. So I need a lot of help with that kind of thing and help getting organized to move. We'd be moving into a small apartment from a one level ranch style home, but still there's a lot of square footage. So we need help. So that's where I'll end that.
Perfect. Well, we can connect you with people and hopefully give you some great tips today to help you along the way.
Good.
Judy, would you like to go next?
We live in Falmouth now, and our kids are grown. We've got a 5-bedroom house, and we're thinking probably a 3 all on one floor is probably more like what we need. And with a much smaller yard, but not too small. It's hard going from a really big place to a smaller place, but
now we know about those 5 places in Scarborough, Katie, so we're all set.
I'll be in touch very soon.
Yes.
And Judy, anything special that you're looking to get out of today?
well, things that we know that we need to get rid of a lot of stuff in order to fit into a smaller space. So just, I think, help on how to do that.
Any thoughts that come out of the discussion?
Yeah.
Yep. Great.
That's interesting, yeah.
All right, Mary Ellen?
Hi, I'm Mary Ellen Hicks, and I live in the Pine Point area, Scarborough. I've been in this house for 20 years, and nobody's here most of the time but me. So it's a great house, great neighborhood, and it really needs a family. But there's nowhere for me to go. So I did a little bit of downsizing. So to you people that haven't started yet, I mean, I did a little bit of decluttering, I should say. Just start somewhere. And the best thing that helped me was to think of it as that somebody really needs this more than I do. I haven't used it in years. And honestly, the things that we think are valuable are not as valuable to the younger generation or to the world today.
Yes.
And it's just stuff. It bogs you down. And even the downside or the decluttering that I've done, it's just, there's still so much more to go. And when you're coming from a big house, it's a lot. And years ago, we moved like 5 times within 6 years. So it was easy. So we didn't collect so much, and now we've collected. So
it happens. And Mary Ellen, where would you go? What would be your ideal situation for where you would move to?
Well, I don't want to do stairs anymore.
Okay, so single level. And would it be a home or a condominium, or you open?
I'm not ready for condo. We're only in our 60s, and that day could come quick enough. But we still like some space.
Yeah, I hear you. And especially if that's.
Have you driven through like Juneberry, Magnolia Place, those types of neighborhoods?
Yes.
Does something like the house-ominium appeal to you? So you don't have the external maintenance, but you have,
Yeah, maybe, but I'm not sure. But there's no place that I could touch for what, the prices are just so crazy. It's crazy. And some of them developments, the newer ones are just so tight. It's like there's no space. So there'll be a place there. Who knows? There'll be a place there someday. Should have looked at this a couple of years ago and pre-planned, but I was in that place where I was so bogged down with the clutter that I couldn't see through it. And then once I started to do one thing, it just, it gave me freedom to say, it doesn't matter.
And that's part of what we're here to talk about today is that, you're all here voluntarily to get information. And the goal is for you to be making the decision to downsize by choice when you can versus when you have to. It's a lot easier to do things if you've already decluttered and you're not maybe ready to make the move yet, but if you've already done the decluttering, you're able to pivot faster when it does come time to make that move.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great job. Sheila, would you like to go next?
Other Sheila.
Mute myself. I can agree with everything that everyone's been saying. I think we have similar circumstances. I've been here 29, almost 30 years. Moved a lot in my lifetime, so it hasn't been a favorite thing of mine to do. But during the time that I've been here, like everyone else, we've, accumulated a lot of things that become essentially clutter. And so I've been downsizing as well. And I find it very difficult because where I want to go and what is available are not necessarily the same thing. I think that goes along with what Mary said. And where I want to be, a more ideal space, is closer to my relatives, and that happens to be in Gray, New Gloucester. It's really difficult finding an available, acceptable, I guess, place where I'd like to go. And so I've changed my perspective as to where I want to go from where perhaps I should go.
Mhm.
Sheila, I have some excellent news for you. You want to know why?
Why?
I just heard literally an hour ago on a phone call I was on about a brand new development in Gray, kind of off the North Raymond Road, if you know where that is, where St. Gregory's Church is, for 55 plus. And I thought, you know what, that's great, because I used to live in Gray, and there really is not much, if anything, there. So I can actually follow up and get more information. They haven't even put shovels in the ground yet, but it's just something to be thinking about.
Well, I might add, the little bit of information that I don't know. I have hired, I've engaged a realtor already. During this time, I've been looking for over a year, okay? And during this time, everybody's telling me you have to sell first in order to move, because that way you have the money to close, and you're not, people don't want to wait. They've been, the market's been crazy. So that's the dilemma I'm with. And I have relatives, like I said, there in Gray and New Gloucester, and I can move into a bedroom in one of the relatives' homes, which I think is very generous and so forth, but I don't want to kind of burden them. And I don't know how long I'm going to be there. It should be something temporary, and et cetera, et cetera.
Perfect. Thank you for sharing. And everyone's individual situation is going to be different. And, one of the things that we'll talk about is, how to best make that move, especially in a competitive market right now. So we'll address that and give some options. Of course, if someone has the financial ability to be able to buy without selling, that puts you in the best scenario, but not everyone's in that situation. So it's how to navigate that. Thank you. Lori, would you share with us a little bit? Oh, you're muted.
Okay, I'm
There
new
we
at
go.
this. Can you hear me?
We got you loud and clear.
Okay, because this is the first time I've ever done Zoom.
Really?
I'm Lori. Yeah, I'm
Welcome.
Lori. Thank you. I'm a friend of Barbara's. I
Excellent.
know her husband Kevin very well. So
Yeah.
she's the one that recommended me to come here, because I posted something on Facebook that I'm just getting really tired of my house. I have a 3-bedroom house in Gorham, and it's a lot of work for me. So I've been thinking about, going to something smaller. I want, a 1 floor. I have started downsizing. I've been giving stuff to my cousins that was my grandmother's or great grandmother's stuff to try to keep it in the family. So I've gone through quilts and gone through some other furniture that I've had that were, for my grandparents and great grandparents. So I've started a little bit of trying to get rid of stuff, but I still got a lot more to go. So I thought I'd join here just to get some ideas of what to do. And I'm not sure where I want to move to, or my dream is to have a tiny home in Maine and a tiny home down south. But whether that will ever happen, I'm not sure.
Well, hopefully it can. Thank you for joining us today, and I'm sure you're going to get some great tidbits out of this.
Yeah, thank you.
Good idea.
Mary, Mary Levy, I haven't seen the picture on yet, which is fine, but would you take a quick moment to introduce yourself if you'd like?
Wait a minute, I don't exactly know how to do it.
Oh, well,
Do
is
I-
this your,
can
is
you
this
hear
your
me?
first Zoom as well?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear, so that's
Okay.
fine.
Well,
But in the
Sure.
bottom left-hand corner of your screen, you'll see next to the mic. Oh, there you are.
okay,
We can see
okay,
you.
good. Okay, well, I'm very interested in the downsizing bit. That's something that we have to do simply because of our age, and we don't even like to think about it, and it's going to be a major job. As far as moving goes, that's not in our, that's not what we're planning right now, but you know, you never, I mean, you know, how long out can you plan? So downsizing and get rid of a whole bunch of stuff is what I'm mainly, and it's been very interesting to me that that's a problem for others.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a problem for most of them. In fact, what we should do is, I believe that there is an old comedy skit. I think the guy was Gallagher, the guy that used to smash the watermelons. He did this skit about how we buy homes and then buy more stuff to fill the homes, and then our homes are full, so we buy bigger homes and we buy more stuff. And we might need to include that comedy bit, Katie, in our next downsizing seminar.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you.
But again, I think it is important. It is a shared challenge for sure. And I can tell you it's extremely common. Even if you have a realtor in the family who knows better, it's still happening. Because with my mom, it was COVID, right? So she couldn't give anything away to Salvation Army. Nobody was doing pickups.
Right.
And she lived with my grandma who was 100 years old. So instead of getting rid of things, guess where everything went?
Yeah.
So we're still going through it, and it's a huge challenge. It's absolutely a challenge. So the sooner you can start, the better.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, Cynthia, would you like to go next?
Sure. I wanted to see what this was all about. I'm here to support Amy and Caring Transitions. And I've always wanted to meet you, Scott. I've always seen you from a distance, and Katie. I do know Barb a little bit. And I wanted to stop by and see what this is about. I do know Judy. Hi, Judy. We go back to camp days. And so I wanted to support Amy, and just real quick, Katie, also, the past 5 years have been so difficult on me, and I'm now just coming up for air. I lost both my mom and dad. So it was, you talk about downsizing. Took a toll. It took a really big toll on me, stress-wise. I had to do everything. So for two parents. So it was really hard, and they would not sell their home. They would not get out of their home. It was really difficult. So it was hard. So it's quite a challenge. I also have a talking parrot. Now screaming in the background. I apologize. She thinks I'm talking to her. And I'll just end with, I just want to end with.
Is it an African gray by any chance?
Oh, no. It's a blue front Amazon.
I have an African gray, and I locked him up just for that same reason.
He says 50 words and 3 songs. Highly, and she's just like an African gray, but blue. So anyways, I just want to say Amy is kind, caring, very detailed, dedicated, and creative. I've had the liberty to do business with her, and I just want to let people know, if you can use her services, please use her. And Scott, I want to thank you and Katie for doing this. This is so well needed. I wish I had you guys years ago, a few years ago. And thank you for your time.
You're very welcome. Thanks you for joining us and sharing. Darlene, you're up next, last but not least.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Darlene Smith. I'd have my camera on, but it's been so beautiful out. I've been out in my gardens cleaning up all morning. So I'm not putting, it's quite intentional. I'm not putting my camera on.
That's totally fine. It's up to what everyone wants to do. This isn't a classroom, so you can be engaged and have the camera on as much as you want, or have it off. Entirely up to you.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you. I appreciate that. I spoke with Katie. Katie gave me a call once. My husband and I are in our 60s. I've been blessed to be retired for 4 years, and my husband is still working for another 2.5 years. So we're taking, when Katie mentioned this may be coming up and would I be interested or would we be interested? I certainly am. We have a 10-room house. It's a big house here in Pine Point. We love, love, love where we live. I power walk the beach every day. I love the marsh. I walk the ET. So for us, we're one of those, from HGTV, we're emotional sellers. When the day comes, we are physically attached to this home. We've had our kids here. We have 6 children and 10 grandchildren.
Wow.
The house isn't big enough for all of our kids when they all come home from Boston and everywhere else. So why are we keeping a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house for 2 people is what we're coming down to. If we could somehow figure out how to do a 1st floor master and master bath, we'd stay here and into retirement. But unfortunately, the house was built by Ira Snow in the 40s, and it's just an older home that you can't do that type of expansion without really wrecking it. So our plan was like someone else, we'd love to, in a perfect world, sell our home at some point, 5 years maybe out, and buy 2 small homes, one here, and then one someplace hot and tropical. We love to travel. But you know what's missing, Scott and Katie, in Maine is communities of small homes, preferably ranches or single levels, that have community, like Florida and Arizona, that have a nice community center building with a pool, those type of things.
Yeah.
So many of us aren't ready to go to a 55 plus, I'm doing air quotes, 55 plus community and live in apartment buildings. And some of us aren't really thrilled. We've owned homes and had gardens for years and years. We're not ready for a condo with a little 8 by 10 foot pad off the back deck. I want a garden. I want to have a little space. So there's a place in Old Orchard called Summer Winds. I don't know if anybody's familiar with that. Adorable little, it's a gated community. They started selling when they were new for like $225, and now they're outrageous, of course, because they can be. But they're upstairs, downstairs. But to do small little 2-bedroom, 2-bath ranches in that type of a 30 to 50 acre, I don't know, maybe I'm the only one thinking that way, but I'm just thinking that why aren't these developments catering to us? We've got the money.
Yeah.
Darlene, you are spot on. And I will tell you that, when I served my time on the town council here in Scarborough, that was a big conversation I was having with developers. Like, I was asking them, please, let's find a way to build what we need and what people are asking for. And, sadly, the answer I most often got was simply, they can make more money on the colonial than they can the ranch. And they're business people, and it comes down to that. But it is actually written down on my Powerball plan that if I were ever to have enough money to invest and do something, that is exactly what I would do. I want a little community with a pickleball court, a pool, a center that people can gather and be neighborly. It would be awesome.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and you're not the first person we've heard that from. And there's also another place down in Arundel on Route 1 between Biddeford and Kennebunk. I don't know much about it other than I've seen it. And these places are seasonal. I think the maximum you can stay is about 6 months. I think they close down in the wintertime, but I think that there is a need for that. And like Katie touched upon, unfortunately, like most things, it comes down to dollars and cents and business with the cost of lumber right now skyrocketing and the lack of land. They're not making any less of it. It's cost prohibitive for developers to build ranch style homes because of the footprint that they take up. And then also it's more cost effective than it is to build up than it is to build out. And what ends up happening is if they were to do that development to factor in the the land cost because of what they're taking up and how many lots they would lose. And then you combine that with the cost of materials, it would end up pricing out a lot of the buyers that are actually looking for that.
Correct. Yeah.
There is also, Scott, the other one that is just popping up, and they're about half sold already with only a few models open, is right
Oh,
up
yeah.
the Saco line there.
Yep.
But I
Yeah.
think what Darlene was saying, and this is the only thing about that one, I don't think that one, you know, I think what people are looking for again are that sense of community, like to have a little community building that they could go to. That's just kind of like these, they're beautiful, they're brand new, but they're like kind of plunked right in a row.
Yeah,
Right.
like a master plan community that has green space, it has
Right.
you know, options for
But they're pretty,
gardening
but
and
those ones I
walking.
will say, those are priced pretty, I mean, I think the 1 bedroom or studios are starting at like 169, and keep everything, the 2 bedroom under 3. So their prices are right. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
And just real quick, Katie, and we won't go down this rabbit hole any further. Do you know if you can reside in them year round or longer than that 6-month period with some of the other ones?
You can. The restriction on rentals is a minimum of 4 months.
Okay.
So what they don't want is see people buying those up and then using them, to rent out weekly in the summer.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Wonderful. Well, thank you all very much for sharing. And if we don't answer all of your questions through this process, we're going to open it up for questions at the end. So everyone will have an opportunity to ask some additional questions. So we kind of start with what is rightsizing or downsizing and why do it? And, a lot of people, I love the word rightsizing because it applies to everybody. It's not always a downsize that matters. So what we've done is we've kind of taken that definition and brought it a little bit further. And it's really adapting the size of your home and your environment to satisfy your current and future living arrangements. Because that's really what we're talking about. And, Darlene, I could totally agree with you, what you were saying. My wife and I absolutely love our house and our location and what we have access to. But there's just 2 of us and 2 dogs here. It's cost prohibitive to tear it down and rebuild. So we're gonna be here for as long as it makes feasible sense. So we totally get that. So really, it's about what's going to be the right step for you. And as I talked earlier, the key here, and I commend you all for coming to this session today, is really to be proactive about it, not reactive. The hard part is when nobody here on the call has shared that they have to be out of their current living arrangement due to physical disabilities or medical needs or anything like that within the next couple months. And that's when the extreme pressure is added. So the goal for everybody here, and my wish for you all, is to be proactive about it. So you're controlling the choices in your life and you're decluttering before it's time to declutter. You're making the move to where you're next going to go before you actually have to make the move, because that's when it becomes more challenging and adds more stress to your life that you probably don't need. Everyone talked about decluttering. It seems to be a common thread. So we're going to give you some tips on that. And the one thing that I want to start out with saying is we are still in a pandemic. Many of you have had vaccines and they're going to have the opportunity to be more social than you have in the past. But what a great time to really focus on clearing out your homes. Between now and, we're getting, I call this fake spring. It's nice out there, the sun, but Mother Nature's got some more cold weather for us in store. So March and April are a great time to get things in order so that when you're more apt to be able to go out and enjoy other people's company, you've got this stuff done and you're available to do it. So that was just a little side note there. So why downsize or right size? It's for a lot of different reasons. But one of the biggest things is, I've heard from a few of you is that your homes are too big. And what comes with a bigger home is more property to maintain, typically higher tax bills, a bigger house to heat, more electric costs to go along with that. Your insurance is going to be higher the bigger your property is, and there's more to repair. So, a roof on a 4,000 square foot home is going to be substantially more expensive than a roof on a 2,000 square foot home or smaller. So those are all things to factor in. And then when going into your next property, whether it be a condominium or a retirement community, or downsizing to an existing home, or even building new. One of the things, if any of you look into building a new home, you'll find that it's going to be more expensive than moving into a home that's already established and has been built. And a lot of those reasons are right now, materials are more expensive than they've ever been. Labor is more expensive there. If you're in the construction field, it's an abundant time. You're turning down more work than you're accepting. And as a result of that, they can charge higher prices as long as someone's willing to spend that money. Now, what you do get with a new home is, for many, it's peace of mind for the next 20 years. You don't have to worry about a roof. You don't have to worry about siding. You don't have to worry about the heating system or the cooling system, because the lifespans of those systems should be more than 20 years. So there's some peace of mind in what you're getting there. When we make the move, the big thing is identifying your goal. And why I asked everybody, what their next step might be is, until you know where you want to go, it's hard to map out a route to get there. Just like if we were to say, where would you want to travel to next? Some people might say Arizona, some people might say Florida. Well, there's two totally different routes to get to each of those places. But until you know where you want to go, you can't really plan for what that is. And then the second thing you need is your time frame. How long is it going to take me to get there? And how long do I want to take to get there? We have a saying in our business, and I'm sure you can all relate, is all work expands to fill the time allowed.
Yeah.
And I think back to, and this is going back a ways, my college years. If I had a week to get a paper done, I would be up the night before, getting it done till 3 a.m, because that's when it was due. And if I had 2 weeks, I just have 2 weeks to stay up the night before and get it done. And I think it's the same thing with all of us.
And yet, Mr. Townsend.
Yes.
If you knew it was a snow day, powder day tomorrow, and you were hitting the mountains, how much work would you get done today?
I would get everything done today. Yeah, and I would get up at 5 a.m. tomorrow morning to do what I didn't finish. We see that a lot with vacation. The joke is that the 2 days before you're about ready to go on vacation are the 2 most productive days of the year, or the month. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and a great example of it is to really, and I'm sure Amy can attest to this with what they work with you on, is to kind of chunk it down, because one thing that I've heard is it's overwhelming. And then there's also attachments to items, and there's processes and resources available to kind of help you detach from those material items. But the biggest thing that we try to suggest people do is to chunk it down. Now that places are starting to open up, like Goodwill and other places that accept donations, and we've got all the resources for you provided in the packets, it's easier to start doing that, where once a week you take a trip over there. You have a box where you put stuff in, and I do recommend starting one room at a time, because if you're anything like me, when I start a project and I'm working on cleaning out the garage, and which my garage is a mess, by the way, and I'm guilty of hoarding and clutter. and excessiveness more than anyone else here. But the other thing that I do is I know that I'm easily distracted. So if I'm out in the garage and I need to bring something down into the basement, and my goal is to clean out the garage, next thing you know, I'm in the basement, it's an hour later and I'm doing something down there. And I'm distracting myself, and I'm sure we can all relate to that. And the analogy that I like to give, and Katie and Amy have heard this before, is if I were to say to all of us, okay, tomorrow we're going to go out and walk 30 miles. Who finds that a little bit overwhelming if we're going to go out and walk 30 miles tomorrow? Okay, everyone does. Darlene's a power walker, so she might be like, you know what, that's a lot, but I think I could probably rough it out and do it. I'd be sore the next day, but I could do it. So now I chunk it down and say, okay, well, for the next 30 days, let's go out and walk a mile. That starts to become a little bit more doable. And for some of us, it may still be overwhelming. So, okay, for the next 60 days, let's go out and walk half a mile. So now for more people, that becomes more realistic. And then if we go even further and say, all right, for next 120 days, every day we're going to go out and we're going to walk a quarter mile, which is one lap around a high school track. And for most people, that's really attainable. And that's how I'd like you to think about the decluttering process. And why Katie and I and our team started doing these seminars is we saw a need for help with that. We would talk to people that were in retirement communities. And the common thing that we would hear is two different things. Number one, from the people that worked at those facilities and residences, they would say, yeah, you know, we had some folks come in, they loved it, they can see themselves living here, but then they go home and they're overwhelmed with 30, 40 years of stuff, and then they just don't do anything. They get analysis paralysis. The other thing that we hear is the people that have made the transition. I'm going to pick on there's two men here. What the common theme that we've seen is the men are the more reluctant ones to downsizing because they like their basement, they like their garage, they like their wood shop, they like those things. And so you guys can relate, right? Yeah. And the one thing that we have heard, and we've talked about this before, we should actually bring on a few folks that have been through it. They look back and they're like, I am so glad that I did it. I didn't realize what I was holding on to. And it was mainly because it was what they knew. And so part of that is, you know, what we all know is the lives that we've been living up to today. And there's a little bit of fear of that unknown. And until you make the choice to make that decision to do that, you won't really know what the other side's going to look like. So I think if the one thing that I'd like you to take away, and Katie's reading a book right now, and she might even chime in on it, is if I can just do a little bit every day, you're going to get yourself in a great direction and you're not going to feel overwhelmed. If I could spend an hour every day just working on one room at a time, you'll be amazed at how much you can get done in a week, in a month, in a quarter, and even a year. So that's the one thing, like I said, the biggest thing that I ask that you take away from this. So next we want to talk about creating your timeline and the three main components to consider. Number one is getting your home ready. And I think that's really where we're all at right now on this conversation, is with the decluttering. What do you need to do to get your home ready so that you could make a move if and when you're ready to? And there's two components of that. There's one, your personal possessions. So what are the items that you haven't used in the past 2 years that you're holding on to? I mean, I remember my grandfather kept a lot of stuff. He was very resourceful, and it was probably growing up in Depression era where nothing went unused. Laundry detergent bottles were filled with sand, and then a rope was tied around them to a tarp that covered wood piles all over the yard. He never threw anything out. And he once told me that the definition of junk is stuff that you hold on to for 15 years and you don't need until the day after you've thrown it out.
Right.
So he says you wouldn't throw out anything. The positive thing that came, I know Cynthia shared a little bit about her parents, and I'm sure you guys have all probably been through this at some point. The positive thing that came out of that is it took my parents and my aunts and uncles quite some time to clear out my grandparents' home. And that was the perfect opportunity for me to have a conversation with them about their home, so I wouldn't have to do it when that time comes. So I remind them every once in a while about that conversation, and hopefully they're decluttering on a regular basis. And then the other part of getting your home ready is any things that might need to get done to get it ready for potential sale. And that could be a combination of deferred maintenance and proactive maintenance. And I highly recommend that you take care of the deferred maintenance sooner than later, because things like rot are only going to get worse. And again, we have some resources for you, and we're happy to answer questions individually and come out at no commitment or charge to answer any questions you have about your home and what things you should and shouldn't do. The second thing is where are you going? And many of you shared with us, some say, I don't want to be in a condo. Some want single level living. It seems to be most of you want some sort of single level living with independence and being able to do gardening or put a wreath on your front door without somebody telling you you can or can't do it. Some are going to be downsizing into retirement communities. So determine where you're going, which we talked a little bit about. And then ultimately, when you are getting closer, and Katie can attest to this, is really understanding, and we'll talk about it later on today with some numbers, is understand what's going on in the real estate market right now for buying and selling, and how that affects you in both areas. Yes, it's a very challenging market to be a buyer in. With that, we're helping buyers every day put properties under contract and buy homes, and we're able to move lives forward. So the key is to partner with the right agent that'll be able to help you form that strategy and understand what's going on in the market. We're also able to create opportunities for properties that aren't in the market, and we'll touch about that a little bit later as well. So really, that's about it for my first portion. And I'm going to turn things over to Katie, who's going to take you through the next few steps.
Don't worry, folks, he's not going very far. Scott touched on this a little bit, but I think it's really, really important, particularly for those of you still in a couple situation, right? That you also start to think about that next home in a little bit more detail. What are those key considerations? So there are the things that we want, right? And then there are the things that we need. And what I'm really kind of in this portion talking about, what are the non-negotiables? What do you absolutely have to have, right? Like we might love to have an additional sunroom or a wet bar or whatnot, but is that a have to have, or is that a want to have? And so first of all, I should ask, everybody did get the packet sent to them, right? Okay. So you can, whether you keep this or print it and whatever, you can use it almost like a worksheet to be jotting these down if you have a piece of paper or something too. I'm going to give you a few minutes to think about that. So there may be more that will come to mind, but take a minute, jot down the top 3 non-negotiables. And if you want to have some fun, like for Judy and Tom, or Sheila, the Johnsons there, you can, don't show your partner what you're writing down. And then see if those 3 non-negotiables match or not. So go ahead, take a minute, write down what are the top 3 things my next home has to have.
Okay.
Lori, if you don't have paper, it's okay. You don't have to. Just promise me, pinky swear, you're going to come do it later. Now that I have an African gray, an atrium is on my list for my next house. Because he's going to live 60 or 70 years. He's going to outlive me.
Oh.
All right, so hopefully by now you have a couple ideas in mind. If you would like to just raise your hand and share one of your non-negotiables, I'd love to just get some ideas of what's out there. Go ahead, Judy.
A first floor master bedroom.
Yep. Yep, and we hear that a lot. A lot of folks aren't opposed to downsizing or right-sizing to a 2-floor property, but the imperative piece is having that first floor master suite, right? Because some people still want the room to have grandkids and adult children come visit, but for themselves, they'll primarily spend their time on that first floor. What other non-negotiables do we have out there? Don't be shy.
Well, I'm looking for less maintenance, obviously a smaller footprint.
Yeah, smaller footprint, less maintenance. Sheila? What?
I have, oh, sorry.
Sorry, there was 2 Sheilas. I should have said
Yeah.
Sheila Boyington, and then I'll go to Sheila Johnson after.
Okay.
I have animals and I want to be able to bring them. I have 4 cats.
Yeah, that's a big deal, right? So you're not moving into a condo or any place that doesn't allow cats. Those are our babies. Sheila Johnson?
Close to medical facilities.
Yep, definitely an important consideration.
A butler.
Ooh,
Butler.
butler. Now we might be moving into the, the luxury want, but that's okay. Other Lori?
Yeah, mine is to make sure I have a gardening spot because I like playing out in the dirt. I think it's a great stress reliever.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure I have a gardening spot.
Yep. And that's fantastic. I mean, and that's, that really starts to hone in the differences, right? So I love looking at a garden. I don't necessarily love taking care of a garden. So, for me, that would be less important, but this is, going through this practice is really going to help you when you start to define and hone in on that property. So.
And I just want to add one thing in, Katie, because we like to give back to the community and all of our clients. I'm willing to offer out to anybody, if you end up in a spot where you're not able to garden the way you want to, let me know. I'll give you an address and you can come and do all the gardening you want here.
Oh, gee, thanks.
Actually, that's interesting. I just heard a story about somebody who sold their house in South Portland and had very extensive gardens. The new folks loved the house, but they just weren't as inept. And the old owner went by and knocked on the door and said to them, do you have any questions? I see you're having a hard time with the garden. And the new owner was horrified and said, I am so sorry. I've let your gardens go to crap. And she said, well, that's okay. I just thought maybe you needed some help. She's like, no, I just don't know what I'm doing. They let the old owner continue to keep coming back and do exactly what Scott said.
Great.
It was awesome. And so now, the gardens look great again. That's a good story. All right, well, let's transition now. We're going to start moving into, I think in your packet, it's on either page 2 or 3, where we start to talk about the 5-step, program. So number 1, the first thing that can help you get moving and thinking about this is setting up that initial consultation with, a local real estate expert. And I think can't be understated. you know, working with a local expert is really important. It's one of the things Scott and I are very passionate about. Something he taught me very well when I first got into this business, because I was so excited and I thought, well, I'm an agent now. I can list a property anywhere, right? And I had some very good friends of mine who were listing a property, $500,000 property. That's a nice listing out in Lyman, Maine. And Mr. Townsend turned to me and he said, well, that's great, Katie. Who are you going to refer that to? I said, what? What do you mean? Who am I going to refer that to? He's like, well, how many times have you been to Lyman? He was right, right? So I will tell you, and just hearing, you know, where everyone's from here, the good news for you is we are experts in all of these communities. But I was not an expert in Lyman, Maine. And so we pride ourselves on knowing, you know, where we do our best business, where we can be of the best service. And if someone lives outside of that area, we do have relationships with other agents outside those areas, and it can help connect you with someone who will be best to serve you. But it is important. So engaging that local expert is step number one. And it's honestly, people ask, well, I'm not going to sell for 3 or 4 years, Katie. Is it worth, you know, having you come out? Well, Scott talked about this a little bit earlier. It's absolutely worth having us come out, because we're building a relationship, and it's never too early. We can help you start to identify which projects will make sense for return on your investment, and you know, which ones don't. I mean, some sellers, and Scott will attest, that we talk to, you know, they'll start spending money and doing projects that aren't really going to get them a return on their investment. So what we don't want to see you do is spending money that isn't going to, you know, improve your property in such a way that you have a gain out of that. Does that make sense? Okay. The other thing is we work with a bench of professionals, as you can see, you know, with Amy here today, but also electricians, painters, carpenters, handymen, junk removal, movers. If it has anything to do with the process of moving, it's most likely that we have a tried and true professional that we've already worked with. So we are happy we can be a resource for you. That's another reason why, you know, establishing this relationship early is helpful and important. The other thing I didn't mention was, you know, elder law attorneys or tax attorneys. If you don't have somebody, you know, who is helping you out with that part of the planning, have connections to those as well. And then I think the last one thing I'll say on this one, I'll see if Scott has something to add though, but the number one reason is to have that initial consultation earlier than later is the accountability. So I know that when I have an accountability partner, whether it is for my workouts, my daily reading habits, all of those things, when someone's checking in with me, and I check in with Sunny every week, Scott's wife, and I will tell you, you know, I don't ever want to report to Scott's wife that I didn't get my things done, right? Having that accountability partner, you know, is super helpful for me and keeping me on track with my goals. So when you start this relationship with us, and we're not going to call you up and beat you up if you didn't, you know, throw out that box of, you know, items that needed to go to Goodwill, but we're going to remind you, right? We're going to check in. We're going to, you know, kind of be that accountability partner for you. Anything else to add on that part, Scott?
No, just, you know, and it's all, you know, we Katie and I joke around that we're like a gas pedal for our clients. You know, you step on us, we'll go. We're not, our motivation is never going to exceed yours. So from the accountability standpoint, it's, you share with us like what's going to be attainable. You all mentioned decluttering. So my first question would be like, you know, what do you think would be attainable to get done in the next 30 days? And it might be a 1 bedroom, it might be 2 bedrooms, it might be the entire 2nd floor, depending on your availability and time. And whatever that is, you're the one that's deciding what you want to do. And Katie or I would check in after 30 days and just say, hey, how did it go with your son's bedroom? Were you able to get all those items out? Did you get it cleared out? And it's going to be one of 3 things. Yes, I nailed it, and I've already started on the next one, and we set the next goal. Or it's going to be, I'm halfway there. I got held up with some stuff, but I'm making good progress, and this is the plan, and it's great. We'll check in with you in a few weeks. Or it's going to be, I really didn't have anything happen. And it's going to be like, okay, well, that, obviously it's your choice, but is it something that you want to happen, and how can we help out? So that's what Katie's talking about, is where we're there for accountability as well as advice.
Yeah, absolutely. And, so as you're doing that, as you're starting to get organized and you're taking inventory, another strategy that a lot of folks have found to be very helpful is kind of, sorting those possessions into 3 different categories, right? So what are the things that I'm absolutely, definitely keeping? What are the things that I, really would like to give to a family member because there's either an emotional or maybe it's a valuable item. You don't want to see it just get donated or discarded. So, get that. And then, maybe garage sale. My mom's a big fan of garage sales, and we're planning a big one as soon as COVID's over and we're allowed to. So, using those kinds of categories is helpful. And then, one thing, and I think I picked this up from Scott years ago, and that was if you don't know what category it belongs in, if you don't know, it should probably go, is what he said. Right? So if you're unsure, and then along those same lines, what resources are available to you? I will tell you this, if, my mom, again, she was 85 when we started this process. She turned 86 this year. She's slowing down significantly, and she wants to go through everything herself. If we had waited for her to go through all of those items, I would have never gotten her here. And so for me, in our situation, it worked out because I'd rather go through it with her, than after she's gone. So that works out for me. But had she started this 5 years ago when we first began the conversation, she was in better shape to do it then. So start early and just be consistent with it. It will pay off for you. And enroll some helpers. So who do you have that are nearby? Do you have some adult children, grandkids, relatives? You can kind of make a game of it. When we were going through, my grandma had probably 300 Danielle Steele books. Anyone here ever read Danielle Steele?
No.
Okay. So my mom and I had fun after Grandma passed, and this was when she was still in Michigan, wrapping up some of Grandma's Danielle Steele books and sending them to everybody, for all the first cousins, for Christmas, like from Grandma. So think about, you can be creative with, maybe they're telling you they don't want your stuff. Well, you can, find a creative way to give it to them. So, all right. And then
just to add that, and it wasn't my suggestion. My parents do that every time they come see me. We're not, and my mom's so cute. She's just, I'm not sure if you don't want it, that's fine. She takes stuff to consignment stores. I thought of you, didn't know if you wanted it. And that's after bringing all of my stuff that I left behind when I left home. They'll come up and, they bring my hockey trophies, and and I'm like, I don't want any of these. So I got rid of them, and it was me getting rid of them, and they cleared out. And, and my mom kept everything. So I got every report card that I ever had, and I'm keeping them around for laughs, but it's going to be my choice to get rid of it, and now she doesn't have to worry about it anymore. So that's a great tip as well.
Yeah. Yep. And jewelry, we did that same thing with my grandmother's jewelry. We sent to all the cousins, all the great grandkids. We sent them a couple pieces of jewelry from Grandma. So there's definitely creative ways to help make sure it goes to a good place and you have some fun with it as well. And then don't forget the helpers and, you know, the other resources that you have out there. Amy, I know, would be happy to follow up with any of you guys after the today is over to help you kind of start to think about that process. The last thing I want to say here is just make sure you start with one room at a time. Because as Scott kind of pointed out earlier in his, you know, it's really easy to get distracted and say, you know, you do this little bookcase in this room and then this little bookcase over here. And the next thing you know, all you've done is you've moved all the stuff from one bookcase to this bookcase, right? I see some people looking at each other like, that sounds familiar. And here's what I would also say. Don't make that room the attic or the basement. Anyone know why I would suggest that?
There's too much stuff in there to begin with. It's too overwhelming.
Exactly. So start with a room, right? Build on those small successes. I actually find bathrooms probably one of the easier rooms to start to declutter.
That's
right?
what I was gonna say. Yeah, the linen closet. Start
And
with
guess
that.
what? You start with one little space and then you build from there and it makes you feel good. Success leads results and you start to feel, oh, wow, this wasn't so bad. I can do that. And then the next thing kind of comes. So there you go.
Get the momentum going.
That's right. Get some momentum going. So the next piece after that, it's talking about, you know, how am I getting my property ready? You know, when this is probably when you're getting a little bit closer to actually being able to sell your home. One of the things that we do include in our package when you choose to work with us is that we hire a professional stager and who is also a designer. And that person's going to come out to the home. They're going to give you you know, go through the home, take some pictures, talk you through kind of their thoughts. But more than just talk you through what they think, they're going to send you a written report of room by room, what they think you need to do to stage the home to be the most sellable possible, right? Put it in the best condition. Because here's what we know for sure. You know, online marketing, online pictures were always important. They're even more important now. We are truly selling property to a global audience. And so the professional staging is more important than ever in terms of getting our clients the best exposure and also the best dollar amount at the end of the day, which is pretty much what I think most sellers tell us they want: the most money in the least amount of time. Anyone here disagree? No? Okay, good. We're all on the same page then with that. So again, the other reason, and so Scott and I too, you know, the sooner we get engaged with you, that staging consult can happen at any point. And that also can be a helpful piece as you start to move through that process in terms of, you know, what to do. If you have questions on paint color, again, she's the expert in design. She knows what's on trend. I mean, it has been 50 Shades of Gray for the last 2 years, but we are starting to see some new colors emerge. So if you are thinking about painting, that would be something that the stager is going to be able to help you with. Just if you think about this, right, and this will help you with that idea, how many of you, just by raising your hands, have considerable care and concern around the equity they own in their house?
What does that mean?
How much your house is worth? Your equity is what your house, what you will get out of your house when you sell it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody cares about it, right? To some degree. Yeah. Okay. So clutter eats equity. You don't want your clutter to eat your equity. So if you keep that in your head, that's going to help maybe motivate you as well, right? And then another kind of thing that we talk about, you know, in terms of staging and preparation, again, clean, 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 clean. Hire some professional cleaners. Here's the truth. Not one of our houses, we could clean every week, every day. And our house is never as clean, right, as it gets done by a professional cleaner, because we don't get into those nooks and crannies like they do, right? So when it comes time for that, we have resources for that as well. If you have animals, it's especially important. I have a huge animal lover, but you know, it can be offensive, the smell of a dog or the smell of a parrot. or cat can be offensive to others. And we have a saying, if we can smell it, we can't sell it. Right. So you want to be very aware of while we might not smell that odor at all, we want to be very clear that we're getting rid of that when it comes time for putting it on the market. So.
Yeah. One of the great things to think about when you're decluttering and you know, when we're no longer on this screen, and feel free to reach out to us at any point with any questions. But if you're sitting there cleaning out a room and you say, you know, I wonder what Katie would say or Scott would say if I should get rid of it. If you're asking yourself that question, the answer is to get rid of it.
That's right.
When in doubt, throw it out.
Usually that's it. So number one, return on investment. Anyone have any guesses? What goes in that blank?
Kitchen?
Kitchen renovation, Judy says. Anyone have a different guess?
Paint.
Who said that? Mary. Mary's right. Mary's right. Brand new kitchens are great if you're doing the entire thing. But here's my what I know to be true. If you're going to sell in the next year or two, and you're going to spend $30,000 on a brand or more, or 50, depending on a brand new kitchen, and you're not even going to get to enjoy it, what happens when the buyer who comes through the property wants black cabinets instead of the white ones that you chose?
Or the maple ones.
Or the maple ones, exactly.
Or the cherry.
Yeah. So what, in terms of renovation, what Scott and I always like to say is it depends on your timeline, and are you going to get some enjoyment out of it, especially with those bigger ones. In this market, the truth is sellers are not having to do much of anything. However, a fresh coat of paint is always crisp, clean, and it will always yield your biggest return on investment because it's not too expensive to paint. And again, making things a nice neutral palette for folks to be able to walk in and envision themselves there, that's important. You might love, you know, the bright red bedroom that you have, but a buyer may not feel the same way. So that's why we do suggest that if you do anything, it's painting, right? And keeping things neutral. Scott, anything else on the renovation piece?
No, I think you touched upon just about everything with that.
I have something I'd like to say.
Yeah.
Sure.
I've been, I don't have cable, so I have just the antenna, and I have been watching these tiny homes, and then these people renovating homes on TV, for, you know, for something to watch. And I noticed that landscaping is a big deal in a lot of them. You know, the landscaping is a big, you know, deal. It's like, you know, could do $20,000 difference in how your yard is landscaped.
Yeah, and my kind of answer to that would be in most regards, actually, it depends. It depends on, and Scott's going to get into this in this next piece. It depends on the timing, the type of market that you're selling in, the time of year. You know, we have a lot of folks who say, Katie, I'd love to list today, but I really want to wait until April or May when my tulips are blooming and the yard looks great and everything, you know, is fresh. We hear that a lot, right? And here's our answer to that, right? The best time to list your home is when you're ready.
Yeah.
Because we sell as many homes in the winter time as we do in the summer. And here's what we know: if everybody waits until April or May, then we have, you know, a supply surge, right? And the truth is, if you don't want to overcomplicate this, it is about supply and demand. So if everybody waits till April or May, while it's true, your flowers may be out, but so is everybody else's. And that's true. There may be some more buyers out there, but there's also more inventory.
Yeah.
So I also like to talk, especially in Maine. I think it's very true because I grew up in Michigan, where in the wintertime it can be gray because of the lake effect for, you know, weeks at a time. And here in Maine, though, that's not the case. We may have a huge, you know, snowstorm, 12 inches, fresh snow, and the very next day is bright blue sky, sun comes out, look at your house in a day like that. Look how bright your house is. I will guarantee you your house is brighter and may show better on a bright winter day than it does in this middle of summer.
Yeah.
So people
Yeah.
don't think about that thing. So
And-
again, timing, it's always when, when it's best for you. Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, and I always said if you don't have good landscaping, winter when it's covered in snow, it's a great time to sell it. And Laura, you mentioned again, it's for everybody. It's different, and like Katie says, it depends. I learned the hard way. The home that I bought was on a garden tour, and I thought that was great. And I wasn't going to be maintaining the landscaping myself. And what my wife and I quickly learned after bills that equaled a beautiful vacation was we don't want this much landscaping. That I don't want to be spending the money on that. So we're like, all right, well, let's just focus on the front yard, which is what people see, and then in the backyard. And with that in mind, if anyone on this call wants a hosta at any point, look me up. I've got plenty, and I'm happy to provide them. So next off, we're going to jump in. Katie, was there anything else you wanted to add, or?
Nope, I was gonna. Nope, go right for it.
Okay, perfect. So next up, we're just going to talk a little bit about marketing and the sale of your property. And I'm just going to to be respectful of everyone's time, I'm just going to give a broad overview, because at the end of the day, it really depends on your home's value within the market you're in, and what else is going on in the market at that time. So for instance, if for Judy and Tom, if we were looking at a selling strategy, we would be looking at what's happening in Falmouth within a $50,000 price point.
Yeah, Kevin, I know you're listening in. Can you change the settings so that I can share my screen? Because we wanted to pop up one of the slides here. This is Kevin, everybody.
Perfect.
Kevin works with Scott and I on the listing side.
I've been hiding in the background.
Yeah, no problem. So I'll continue on, and then Katie, Kevin, I'll just give you the cue for that.
He doesn't have it though.
Oh, I'll give you the cue.
Yeah.
Go now. So, and we'll talk about that. But the reason I bring that up is that the right now the overall market is really in good shape, but it's different in different price points, and it's different in different towns. So we take a unique approach based upon where your home is located and what else is going on in the market at that point in time. We're looking at what's your competition and how many homes are available for sale. And then the other thing I just wanted to mention that we're doing is we're creating opportunities for our clients. Sheila, who left, was mentioning that she's been looking for about a year and hasn't had much luck. One of the things that I want to encourage you to do is, if you want to start looking and you are serious, and it doesn't have to be us, consider us your real estate resource. We'll connect you. If you're looking to relocate out of the area, we'll make sure you have a great agent in that area. But for buyers that are working with us right now and that are actual clients, we're providing them opportunities that aren't on the market. So they're not going to be in a multiple offer with Katie, you had 15 offers on your listing this week, and I had 12 on mine. Wow. Our clients aren't going to be in that crazy situation. Now, we can't always create the perfect scenario, but we are in a position to create opportunities for clients. So consider that. And then same on the sell side. We have some sellers that they're moving into a retirement facility, and to get their home ready for sale is overwhelming for them. So what we were able to do is provide a situation where we had some great buyers that were looking for a home just like the ones that these folks had, and they were willing to pay a premium for that home because they weren't going to be in a multiple offer situation. So our sellers got their price without having to go through all the work to get it on the market. So now all they're focused on is getting the home ready for sale. They're decluttering. They don't have to worry about pictures or paint colors or anything like that. They're just focused on getting ready for their move into, they're moving into Ocean View. So it can be an advantage for them. Now, again, Katie and I will tell you, it's in a seller's best interest to go to the open market. but it's not always in everyone's best interest given what they're dealing with, whether it's a health issue, whether it's just the overwhelming feeling, because everyone has a different capacity to handle stress and do work. So we're going to customize that process to you and your needs. And the other thing to talk about.
Can I just add
Yeah.
one thing to that? Yeah. So, and again, and Scott's right on, like every seller I meet with, 99% of the time, you're better off going to the open market. But there are always exceptions to those circumstances. And when we create these different opportunities and we may let our client into properties early, what we're always still doing, we're still responsible for both sides, like our buyer clients and our seller clients. So it's not that these buyer clients are getting a good deal and you're not still getting the most out of the market. In fact, the buyers are prepped ahead of time. They're just grateful. You know, they'd rather go be up against maybe four people instead of 50. And that is what we are seeing in this market. You know, it's a crazy number of showings, a crazy number of offers, but our job is to make sure you're still getting the most out of that market. And meantime, the buyers are also having an opportunity that they otherwise wouldn't have had. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay.
And right now, sellers are and we put our sellers in a leverage position, but sellers are able to, yeah. What do you?
No, well, the other thing I meant to add was, that's the other thing. So many people don't know where they want to go. And again, in this market, so we have seen things as crazy as, well, it sounds crazy because a few years ago, we would have said this would never happen. But buyers doing things like waiving inspection, covering any appraisal gap on a high price, but even more crazy or more creative, letting a seller, closing on a property, letting a seller stay there for an additional couple of months. And that is a unique opportunity too that we've been able to provide for our sellers. And that's really helpful, right? Because now you've sold the property, you've got the cash, now you're in a better position on the other end.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say, Katie.
Oh, sorry.
No, because sellers do have more. When you have 15 people that want to buy your home, you're not only able to get your price, but you're also able to get the best terms as well. So it's a great time to take advantage of it. And it's not always like that. If it was a buyer's market and there was tons of inventory for buyers to choose from, then it becomes what Katie calls a price war and a beauty competition. And that's really when you want to focus on making sure that the home is perfect when it hits the market. And then touching on that, most closings nowadays, the average time frame is about 45 days. Rates are really low right now. And a buyer can only lock in a rate for up to 60 days without having to pay additional money. So that's why these rent back situations are happening versus a delayed closing, is the buyer wants to lock in that low rate. So Katie, if you wouldn't mind sharing your screen. I just want to kind of give you an example. This is in your packet, page 3, of what we're looking at for a market snapshot.
I don't think hang on a second. I'm looking at the wrong. Here we go.
There you go. You want to? Do you want to zoom in on that a little bit? Because when it's on a shared screen for the rest of us, it comes a little smaller.
Can I do that?
Yeah, hit the
yeah,
plus.
there you go. Oh, that's what I was going to suggest. Perfect.
Yeah, maybe one more. There we go.
Yeah.
Perfect. And if you can't see this well, this is in your packet, and you have it to take a look at. So we're just kind of giving a snapshot of what's going on, and we're starting with a broader view. This is Cumberland County statistics. So between 2019 and 2020, there was 930 sales, and last year there was over 1,000. So we've got an increase of 9.25%. And then also the median sales price, this is what people tend to take notice on, is the median sales price in all of Cumberland County is up almost 15%. Now we kind of break it down a little bit closer. In Scarborough, we've had 389 sales that have occurred. The average sales price is $460,000, and that sales price just in Scarborough alone is up 10.18%. Can you scroll for me a little bit
Yep.
more, Katie? Now, this is just general numbers right here. When we do an individual selling strategy for you for your home, we're going to be looking most likely within a $50,000 bracket, maybe stretch it out as much as 100, but a $50,000 bracket to see what's happening in your price point in your specific time. And what you'll see is that the percentage of inventory right now, if you wanted to buy a home in Scarborough above $800,000, there's nothing on the market to purchase. Within up to 400,000, you've got 22 homes that you could actually buy. And there's 41 of them that are under contract. A lot of those are new construction.
I was just gonna add, yeah, so in those first two price brackets, one thing that is skewing the data a little bit, not telling what I would say is the true story is really, it's the new development at the Downs. Because what happens is they'll release, you know, 10 of them at once. And so it looks like there's a lot more than there actually is.
Yeah, and so what we do is, you know, we're going to extract that data. So a new construction that, you know, will sit there as pending for 8 months while it's being built can affect those numbers. So we're looking at the real pendings and the real actives. And what we see in most towns right now and in most price points is we're 2 months or less inventory. Which again is very seller advantaged. So Katie, thank you for sharing that. If you have any other additional questions, just let us know. And then to segue, you know, the next step is moving to your next home. Everyone's situation financially is different, so I won't get into it too much here. We can have individual conversations, whether you need to sell in order to buy. What other options are available to you? There's some lenders out there with creative programs. Do you have a home equity line of credit on your home that's available to use to purchase another property? And again, we'll work with you on a strategy that's going to be best for you to obtain that next home. And it's all going to be individualized. I think at this point, it might be best to be respectful of everyone's time, is to open up to see if there's any questions that we didn't answer that you specifically want answered.
A question.
All right.
Do you recommend antique dealers?
I think let me have Amy chime in on this, because this is outside of my realm of
Okay.
expertise.
So we can certainly help you to liquidate those items if you're looking for somebody specifically to come over and give you an idea they'd be able to give you for them. You know, I can certainly connect you with some people that might be willing to do that.
Okay.
Just keep in mind, typically when you're dealing with somebody like an antique dealer, you may not get much for the item as if you were to personally sell it to find a buyer yourself, because they're coming in, they're having to haul it off and warehouse it and inventory it and sit on the item until it sells. So, but I can certainly get you into some people.
Thank you.
Yes.
And spoiler alert, if any of you have a Hummel collection, it's not as valuable as you thought it might be. Any
True
other
story.
any other questions?
Any other questions? We were that good that you just understand it all. You've got it all going on. Awesome.
I did think Barb had something that she wanted to say though.
No, Scott was going to get to that.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I was going to get. So I do want to say, if you do have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us at any point or any of our resources. We're here to help in a conversation. And even a meeting doesn't cost a thing. Like Katie touched upon, consider us a real estate resource. It's all about building the relationship. Next, I would like to introduce Barb Mcdonald, who is our client care coordinator. And she is going to be doing the drawing for the winner of the gift card that was kindly donated by Amy and of Caring Transitions.
Thank you so much, Scott. Hello, everyone. It's been a very informative time. I'm proud of you for all coming along. I've just joined the team at the end of last year, and real estate is got a lot of questions. So I'm proud of you for coming along. This team is excellent in helping you, and I'm finding the compassion and care very genuine as well. So I'm happy to keep in touch with people that need to get some more answers. But again, as Scott and Katie referred, it's on your timeline. There is no pressure. They're looking to offer guidance, and I've seen a lot of families get some really nice help. So just take their advice one step at a time. And that decluttering, Amy, that's so helpful to hear. It's not even that one room, that one drawer, the spice cabinet. You go small, start. You'll get it one step at a time. So and then Katie taught me some other things too. There are buyers who just clean that carpet a little bit. They'll find that hardwood underneath, and the new owners will love that. And it'll be an exciting chapter to find out where each person will move next. No client is going to be homeless. We'll find a solution that's creative and tailored just for each of you. So keep that in mind. And you're all winners for coming along, but our little electronics scroll will make a winner pop right up for the Good Table gift card, Cape Elizabeth Restaurant. Thank you, Amy Fabro, for bringing that to us. And that winner is Judy Crosby.
Oh,
Judy
Oh, there
Crosby.
you go. Wow.
Terrific. Thank you.
thank you.
So Judy, I'll send you an email and we'll just to get in touch and we'll get that sent over to you.
Okay, well,
Thank
thank you very much.
Congratulations.
Good.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, Judy.
Hey, guys, can I
Oh,
quickly add something?
yes.
Yeah.
I just want to say that I've met a lot of realtors since owning this business, and I have to say that the Townsend team is by far the most professional, in alignment with what I do and provide. They get it, and they understand the difficulty of the process, and they're very sensitive to that, and they truly care. So I have to say, hands down, the best realtor team I've ever dealt with.
Thank you.
And we did not pay her to say that. She
Actually had to pay.
Thank you very much, Amy.
Kevin, you might have to follow up with Amy to see if we can get a written testimony.
Yeah. Can we get that in writing?
One last question for Scott or
Yeah.
Katie. I noticed that this is being recorded. Is there any possibility that you could send this out to the people that have joined in today? So our spouses that couldn't make it might be able to listen to it?
100%. Kevin will send that out to everybody.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wonderful, thank you.
As long as you promise not to sell or try to replicate our act and material.
Yeah.
So, well,
Yep,
A lot
thank
of
make
you
great
sure everybody
guys.
questions today. That's great.
Absolute pleasure to see all of you. And yeah, we'll be following up. One of the things that Barb's role, and that's a new role we've created for this team, but you can think of her as a great resource. Like she, client care, like that's what it's all about for us. So she's often talking with our vendors, the painters, the, handymen, those kinds of things. So we'll be following up with all of you and think of us that way.
That's good to know, because I have Bob at my Facebook page.
There you go.
You can all
Stalker,
find me on
Lori,
Facebook.
stalker.
Thank you
Well,
all.
thank you for a
coming.
great presentation.
Thank you, very
Thank you.
informative.
Thank you
Thank
so
you, everyone.
much.
Bye.
Have a
I
great
hope I
you,
can help you
everyone.
in the future.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you again.